Hey everyone, and welcome to Cooking Companion TV. I'm Jenna Edwards, and this is a recipe demo of Paleo lemon bars. These are gluten-free and they use no processed sugar. Are they a full, genuine replacement for the real thing? No, nothing is. But if you're jonesing for some lemon bars and you're following the paleo diet guidelines or some other super strict diet, this might work. We'll start with lining an 8x8 pan with parchment paper in both directions. I'm going to measure my paper and cut it so it fits the width of the pan. I hate it when parchment paper gets all wrinkled in the corners. And be sure to let the paper hang over the sides for easier removal later on. And then we'll make the crust. We'll mix together almond flour, ghee and/or coconut oil, maple syrup, and a pinch of salt. Whisk this all together. And yes, whisking will be awkward because as the mixture gets wet, it will clump up inside the whisk and you'll either have to tap it out or pry open the whisk so it can fall out. It's not as difficult as I'm making it sound. Just know that if yours looks like this, you aren't doing it wrong. Now we'll press the dough into the bottom of the pan, and since the parchment paper is there, it'll feel different from your normal press. You won't be able to slide the dough around. You'll have to gently work it into the thinner areas and into the corners. It should be about 1/4 inch thick according to the recipe, although mine ended up being closer to 1/2 inch. And we'll bake this at 350 degrees for 15 minutes or until the crust is just golden brown around the edges. And while that bakes, let's zest a few lemons. If you've never zested before, I have a full tutorial on the channel, and basically we're just removing the colored part of the rind. If you dig too deep, you'll get into the pith, the white part, which is very bitter. Now you have to have a microplane for this. There is no substitute for a zesting tool. You have to have a microplane. Now my crust has reached golden edges, which took nearly 20 minutes for me. And now we need to let the crust cool while we make the filling. And I mean really cool. Once the pan is cool enough to touch by hand, put it in the fridge, and you may need to leave it there for an hour or so. So on to the filling. We're gonna whisk together 4 eggs, and I do think aquafaba would work really well here. And this is easiest in a stand mixer with the whisk attachment at 6. Now whip the eggs for about 4 minutes until they're frothy. And slowly add honey and coconut oil and keep mixing until it's all combined. Then, by hand, we will fold in lemon juice and lemon zest. Now, before adding the filling to your cooled crust, you'll need to let the filling settle so there aren't bubbles on top. You can do this by tapping the bowl on the counter to help pop those bubbles. This took several minutes for me because it seemed like the more I tapped the bowl in the counter, the more bubbles I would get. And eventually, you'll pour the filling into your very cooled crust. So here, I'm not sure I let my crust cool enough, which is why I've been harping on it so much for you, because I can kind of see the egg mixture melting as it hits the crust. So I'm going to quickly get it into the oven where it will bake for 15 to 25 minutes or until the edges are set and the middle is just barely jiggly. So here's my fully baked bars, and we're gonna let them cool completely in the pan. Again, when you can touch the pan by hand, move it to the fridge to set. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take some unsweetened shredded coconut and process it in a food processor until it's in tiny pieces, almost to a powder if I can. So it'll be my powdered sugar replacement, and I can then dust it over the cooled bars like this. So this is just a fine mesh strainer that I'm tapping with my hand for an even dusting. Now cut it into squares and enjoy. Again, if you're used to alternative desserts using these ingredients, they'll probably taste glorious to you. I frequently make very glutinous and sugary desserts, so this is a bit foreign to me. Like I mentioned, I think my crust was still too hot for the filling, and I can see that my filling is very thin while my crust is very thick and wet. Now the filling tastes good, although I can tell it's very airy, which would be all those bubbles we whisked into the eggs. So my advice to you is to let the crust cool completely, and I mean completely, and then let the filling really settle. And also let the whole thing cool and set before you start cutting into it. Alright y'all, that's it for this demo of Paleo lemon bars from the Sweet Laurel Cookbook. Get the full notes at cookingcompaniontv.com, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to this channel for more demos just like this. I'm Jenna Edwards, and thanks for watching.